2 weeks ago. So the president coming here for a climate change summit, recognizing that the more urgent problem is the problem of security, the problem of refugees, the problem of the war against ISIS in Syria. So I think that, you can theorize or debate or argue climate change and the human contribution to the warming of the planet all you want, but the first thing in the first order of business for the president of France and all the other world leaders gathered here, over 150 of them, is to secure their countries from this disruption.
Geraldo, here's a question. Okay, and we're not going to argue about climate change, although we do know that over the last couple of decades, for the most part, the temperature has, for the most part, stabilized or gone down a little bit. Regardless of that, though, let's talk about the fact that when you look at polls, though, the American people, where you look at their concerns, I think climate change, 3% of the country says that climate change is their #1 priority. And way in front of that are things like terrorism and security and, of course, our economy.
Steve, let me just gently disagree, and I love you slightly. This will be 2015. The hottest year on record. We've had 9 out of the 10 hottest years since the year 2000 in this century. So I think the planet is getting warmer. The question is, what's responsible? Sure. It's hard to be in a smoggy day in Beijing and not think that man
has
is causing
slowed significantly over the last 2 decades, and that brings up the question.
I am not going to debate climate change.
I know.
With you,
that's
buddy.
why I said we weren't going to debate
I'm not going to debate climate change or religion or politics. Everybody, it seems to me, are united now that we have to fight terror first. We've got to wipe out these extremist security before all things. And Europe and the European Union itself, this fragile joining of these nations of the continent of Europe, that whole notion is at risk because nobody knows who's in what country and nobody knows where they came from. And I think that's a real difficulty that will have to be dealt with before we deal with whether or not it's getting warmer or colder outside.
Most important issues, according to a recent poll, ABC Washington Post poll: terrorism 42%, the economy 29%, healthcare 8%, immigration 8%, and keep going down to find global climate change. And among the nations who are pulling off the whole global climate change is England. And because they're starting to look around saying, in fact, 1 in 5 say they think it's a natural cause, any changes in weather, as opposed to 1 in 14 who thought it was a natural change in weather. There's a move away from this while the president's moving into this. And when he comes back home, Senate Republicans want to make sure he's not going to jam an executive order down our throats. But we'll have to see how that goes.